Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Wicked. We're not going to talk about the dolls having the porno links.
However, the dolls are selling for a lot of money now because people like the movie and you can't buy the dolls.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that because the movie made a lot of money. Now, we said it probably would make a lot of money. I didn't know if it was going to make
I don't know if it'll make $1 billion.
They were claiming it was going to make $1 billion. I don't know about that. But I knew it was going to do well because it's like the play was really popular. And even with the controversy leading up to it, I don't know if normies knew about all the online drama and all that stuff. They're just like, oh, look, Wicked musical. That was a big thing back in the day. And this doesn't look as bad as Cats. So anyway, so it's making money. But we're going to talk about a trigger warning put on it in the UK because apparently, the whole green skin thing is a euphemism for racism, or it is racism in Oz. And we don't want people to be triggered, because I know all the green-skinned people out there are going to be very offended by this movie. So we'll talk about that. Before you get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Check out clownfishminus.com. We have a couple of signed items left, and we also have some new merch for winter here, so check that out, please. You can join and get exclusive content, and that content is also mirrored on Locals.com, clownfishtv.locals.com. So thank you so much for the support. So they have a trigger warning on Wicked in the UK.
For green-skinned people and persecuted talking animals.
Yes. I thought this was a joke. This isn't a joke. A trigger warning about Wicked has people in a tornado-like rage. This is coming from TMZ, with many decrying the warning about discrimination against people with green skin. Here's the deal. The British Board of Film Classification reviews movies with a set of criteria, telling parents that there's nudity, violence, injuries, and discrimination. Okay. For Wicked, the section reads, a green-skinned woman is mocked, bullied, and humiliated because of her skin color.
That's true, though. I mean, that would be making fun of someone because, their skin color. So that technically would be. A
disabled woman in a wheelchair is treated in a condescending manner by able-bodied people. Talking animals are persecuted in a fantastical society. Wait until they find out what happens to the disabled woman in the wheelchair. It gets so much worse. Just wait for part 2. It gets so much worse. As you can imagine, people online aren't happy about it, with many using the hashtag Go Woke, Go Broke. Well, this one's not going broke, guys. I hate to.
Yeah, but I mean, it is technically, I think it's reaching. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's reaching. But they're saying that she's mocked and bullied because of her skin tone. That is discrimination. So technically that actually is true. I mean, that does qualify under, I don't know what their guidelines are, but if they're supposed to mark discrimination, she is bullied and discriminated against because of her skin tone.
I guess this kind of reminds
that is true.
Was it Common Sense Media, where you go through and they rate like every little thing? Like even if the movie's like PG or PG-13, some PG-13 movies are superhero movies, and other PG-13 movies are horror movies that are just a step removed from being an R-rated movie. One boob or one F-bomb from being an R-rated movie, or too much gore or whatever. They kind of break it down and they're more granular. But, people are like, wait a second, they have a trigger warning because she's green.
Yes. I mean, when they explain it that way, it makes sense, but it's still like, but she's not, because I guess they're saying it's a stand-in for, it's a stand-in for whatever race or whatever,
But that was the point of the whole play originally.
Right. So then technically, if that's the case, then saying that is discrimination on screen is true.
They basically push her to become wicked, and she probably wouldn't have been wicked if they didn't treat her like shit.
Right.
Constantly treat her like shit.
Right. So I'm like, they're not incorrect. I mean, do I think it's going a little far? I think it's a little ridiculous, but if they're supposed to rate this and they have a system and they're supposed to mention discrimination, technically it is. So,
Piers Morgan took to Instagram to ask the woke brigade to fuck off with this nonsense. They said, in America, it's worth noting, the film is not preceded by a trigger warning. It's unclear if it does in the UK, though. It seems to be more like an auxiliary resource for people rather than something the studio.
Yeah, I don't think they actually have it in front of the movie. I mean, I could be wrong. If you're from the UK, tell us, but I don't think it's actually in front of the movie.
Yeah, they said Wicked's always had themes of racial discrimination. Elphaba has green skin, but it's a metaphor. So yeah, so I mean, basically she becomes wicked because she's treated like shit for a variety of reasons. They said, yeah, the wicked warning might be woke, but like ain't going broke. It's on track
It's
to make
not.
242 million. Yeah, I knew it was going to be big
It's
because
already made. It's already. I mean, it hasn't made quite the. I think it had 150 million budget, and it's made, 100 million more than that. So it still has a little bit to go to break even, but it's going to hit it. It's not going to be a problem.
Wicked's. Well, this is the Guardian admitting it's silly. Wicked's
It is silly,
green
but-
skin trigger warning feels silly, but not as silly as those crying woke.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I think it's silly, but I also am like, if that is their job to determine what that falls into those categories, this technically would. So they aren't wrong, but I don't think they're putting it in front of the movie for real, are they? I don't think they are.
No, it's on the site.
Okay, that's not the same thing. I mean, they're not putting it in front of the movie saying this could trigger you.
Yeah, so they're like, I mean, there's a lot. Okay, so there's a whole lot of things to unpack here. So
Oh,
one,
great. Okay.
does it seem excessive and silly? Yes. Do they do this with other movies? Like I said, with Common Sense Media, yeah, they
Yeah.
do. Every movie, they nitpick everything, like things I wouldn't have even thought of. Like they have a rating for, and this is in the U.S. the Common Sense Media, but they have like it's got overt commercialism messages or whatever, you know what I'm saying? They have kids rate movies or whatever that they've seen, which is good that, kids kind of give their feedback. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a duh, and it's probably just some organization trying to justify their existence.
Most likely.
Weirdly, what would be weird about it is like if Wicked actually deals with racism more than Song of the South.
I
would like to stack these two movies against each other and see what, like which one has more overt themes of racism, but yeah, so it does seem silly. It seems excessive. It's not, I don't think it's on the level of, I mean, everybody's talking about it, but it's on the level of Disney slapping the trigger warnings on their old movies. Where they can't accept like, hey, this movie was made in 1940 something, and yeah, it's going to be a movie that was made in 1940 something. Freaking deal with it. Yeah, even the kids are smoking in the movie. Okay, everybody smoked. Deal with it. They said it's an important warning, though, according to the Guardian. Perhaps you yourself happen to be a green-skinned witch who's been wrongly demonized by the population of a magical land, and seeing the scene without advance word would have given you PTSD. Or perhaps you have a rare genetic disorder, which turns your skin and urine green, and you want to go see Wicked purely as an act of solidarity.
Wow, that's very, very... What did you go look up somebody who had green skin to find an example?
I'm sure. It would be extremely upsetting in this instance than to see some people be mean to her. Maybe you're a frog. I don't know. Either way, it's a good thing that the BBFC has taken this important step. Yeah, actually, the Guardian is saying it's kind of ridiculous.
It is a little bit far, but I mean, if they're told to find these things, and that's what they have to grade things by, you technically would have to count that as discrimination, even if it's stupid. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so I think the reaction to it, and we're just talking about because everybody else is talking about it, right? This is my first look at it. And I'm like, I think there's massive overreaction.
I think it's overreaction too.
Because it's not like they're flashing it on the screen before you go see the movie.
Yeah.
It's not that, and like you said, it's probably to justify their existence. They're going through and nitpicking.
I think that you have a criteria. That you're required.
Kids are in danger. They point guns at kids. You
have to write this stuff down. Is it discrimination? Right. Technically, yes. So technically, they have to write it down. But I don't think if they're not running it ahead of the movie and stuff, then I don't think I think it's silly, but I don't think it's.
Somebody found the website. They found it. They flipped the hell out because they're like, oh my God. But again, the theme of the whole thing is persecution, being persecuted, being different. Mm-hmm. And yeah, some people, it probably will hit them, even though she's green, might be like, well, I've dealt with this too.
That's just it. It goes back to that whole, you can identify with people who don't look like you.
Right.
That the Hollywood keeps trying to tell you that you only can identify people who look like you, but that's not true. Like, I think everybody can relate at least some point to some, being picked on for something. You know what I mean? So I think she's a very relatable character in that regard.
Well, it's interesting though, because the Guardian rips this thing to shreds, but they're actually ripping people who are getting upset about it to shreds. But so it gets crazier. So the BBFC doesn't even stop there, going on to provide us with a trigger warning about a scene where a talking goat is vilified. Now we can't even enjoy scenes of cruelty to talking animals. What's the world coming to?
It was a talking goat?
Yeah, apparently it's a talking goat.
And what do they do to it?
Vilify it.
Okay, what is that? I don't know what that means. No, I like this part. They're talking about there's nothing that we right-minded, non-green citizens want more than a film about loads of people trying or being arbitrarily horrible to someone with green skin, and we really could do without the snowflakes at the BBFC coddling us by assuming that we might find it upsetting. Quite frankly, more films should contain targeted abuse at green-skinned people. There should be a scene in Gladiator 2 where Rowan pushes a green-skinned witch under a charging rhinoceros, or a bit in Paddington in Peru where Paddington Bear gestures at some green-skinned people in the background and mutters the word twats at them. Oh, that's funny. Sorry.
Yeah.
Look, I think that there's a department that is their job to monitor and write this. And by technically, it's discrimination. So yes, they're right to say that it contains that. I think a trigger warning is a bit much for this, but it's not being put ahead of the movie, at least not to my knowledge. So in that regard, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think people are blowing it out of proportion, but it's also laughably stupid.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, somebody got paid to do this, right?
It's their job.
So yeah, look, the movie's making money. It's the highest grossing movie of all time based on a Broadway musical. It did better than Cats.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. I think people understand that it's supposed to be discrimination. They get that. They get that. They're smart enough to understand that. You happen to spell it out.
Yeah, and they got a sequel coming. It's going to make buckets of money, right? I knew it was going to make money. I didn't know how much it was going to make. I'm still not sold on $1 billion, but Wicked I know is popular. I mean, it was popular enough that I'm not a Broadway guy, but I knew Idina Menzel came from Wicked, and I knew the poster. And I knew the gist of it, which is, the Wicked Witch. This is why she's wicked. Cause
my daughter didn't know the book had stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
And we were at the bookstore the other day. She picked up the book, and I was like, oh, I thought she was kidding. And I started laughing. I'm like, yeah. And then later on, she was telling me about some of the things she found out that were in the book. And I'm like, oh, I thought you knew. I thought that's why you picked up the book and joked about it. She's like, no, I didn't find out this stuff out till later. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I was laughing when you picked the book up. And I was like, I thought you were kidding.
Yeah, the book is pretty raunchy. It's funny, though, because they put the movie poster on the cover of the book to sell, like they do when they bring in, an adaptation out. And people are like, oh, my God, parents are going to pick this book up for their kids, and they're not going to realize how raunchy the original...
That's what my daughter was saying.
The original book was. It's like, damn.
My daughter was saying that. She said, she told me that was what we were talking about when you said that.
Yeah.
They put the movie poster on the book, and people are buying it for their kids, and they're like, what is this?
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah. And I thought she knew. That's why I was laughing. Because one she picked up had the original cover, not the movie poster.
Yeah.
And she was like laughing about it. And I thought she was like, no, she didn't know. And then I was like, she found out later.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, I knew that. I thought that's what you were joking about. No.
So we're going to wrap this up.
Yes.
There we go, guys. Trigger warning,
should put trigger warning. Trigger warning, you might be offended by things that Geeky says in this podcast or show.
Are we going to have to do that?
She doesn't care.
Do we have to put a trigger warning on our videos and be like, trigger warning?
The list of you that won't be triggered is shorter than the list that will.
If you're under 30 years old, you may be triggered by things that we say because we don't give a shit anymore, and we don't really give a shit about your feelings, but that's okay. We're from Gen X, we get a pass for that, right?
No, I'm just like, I get tired of crap. That's all I have,
We gotta wrap this up.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.